Hey everyone, this is EJ Laws from HR Tech Go to Market, most popular podcast on how HR tech, future of work, and automation companies bring their products to market. In this episode, we speak with Alex Coleman from Faraday Careers. Faraday Careers helps onboard people into skilled trades, specifically starting with HVAC as well as looking at other areas. This is an enlightening episode for me, and I hope you all enjoy it as well. Hey everyone, this is EJ from HR Tech Go to Market. Today I'm here with Alex Coleman, founder of Faraday Careers. Faraday is focusing on a unique area that I've heard a number of people talk about as important and underserved recently. But Alex, I will let you talk about what Faraday Careers is and what you're doing.
Awesome, EJ. Excited to be on the pod.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming. So would love to hear in your own perspective, your own words, what is Faraday that you're working on right now?
Yeah. Faraday's focused on building the next generation of skilled trade professionals. So we're kind of a marketplace connector. We match people who are hardworking, who are looking to get into careers like HVAC, plumbing, electrical, and we connect them with employers who will hire them and basically pay to train them into technicians or professionals. So we connect employers who have the capacity to hire and train entry level folks, and we connect them with folks who want to make a career transition or want to start a career in the skilled trades.
Got it. Thanks. And so these skilled trades are, I would say, more on the services side of skilled trades. Is that right? That's HVAC. I think you mentioned a couple of things. Sorry about that, but
Yeah,
that's where you're the really focus is, right?
yeah. So skilled trades, it's like kind of tough to categorize. I think you kind of lump it in with construction. So our focus is really on kind of what you'd call home service trades. So if your air conditioner breaks in your house, or like your sink is leaking, you would call your local plumber or HVAC technician. That's really where we're kind of getting focused in on. There is kind of commercial and industrial applications in manufacturing, or kind of chemical manufacturing, or even commercial construction, right? Someone's building like a skyscraper, or a multifamily home. But we are really focused on kind of the service side. So again, really customer facing and going in and fixing, everyday people's equipment in their homes.
How did you decide to focus on the trades? And then as the follow up, like what led you to the services side of the trades?
Yeah. So, I actually have no formal experience in the trade. So I've never been an HVAC technician or an electrician. But I grew up in and around kind of the trades and manufacturing. So my father and uncle entered the workforce out of high school, and started a medical device manufacturing business. Never went to college, kind of started this business with my grandfather's retirement savings. Ended up being a successful family business. So I spent a lot of time as a kid kind of working on the factory floor. Um, Temperature and humidity control were really important during the process. So got to know some of the
Mm,
HVAC folks coming in and out of the facility. Got to work a lot with kind of like the manufacturing line folks. So when to start Faraday, and part of the inspiration was kind of growing up there, and trying to bring kind of dignity and technology to a business that I was really familiar with. But the challenge with manufacturing was that the training and kind of requirements really differ. The training is hard to commoditize. Controls at one company may look different than others. The processes may differ pretty vastly. Um, and when I started learning more about kind of the trades, you kind of see like this commoditized, pieces of education, right? There's licensing requirements that are pretty well defined in plumbing or electrical. There's national certifications required for HVAC. A lot of it is physics and thermodynamics, and that doesn't really change all that much whether you're working on the East Coast or the West Coast, or the middle of America. So we kind of
which
saw
is a
this
good thing,
opportunity,
right? It's
right?
a good
Yeah,
thing. The physics is not changing.
yeah.
Yeah.
The variables certainly change, but the overall physics does not. So we saw this opportunity where there was kind of like a commoditized, uh, you know, part of the education that we could provide as an education provider that would service a larger group than like trying to build specialized training for advanced manufacturing.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of learning condensed down into a very succinct statement. I know you talked about the background in manufacturing. So then you go from manufacturing, like, oh, this is not that commoditized, or at least it's not that consistent, to then okay, we need something that's more consistent, and it's great if it's regulated or licensed at a national level. How quick was that learning and iteration cycle for you? Was that already a hypothesis in your back of your mind, or was that something that you just spoke to customers and really found out about? How did that work?
Yeah, I really didn't know a lot about the trades kind of getting into the business, which sounds, I talk to people and they're like, why'd you start Faraday? It's like, I have no experience in education or the trades, and I'm starting a trades education business. So, really came in and just started talking to customers. Fortunate to kind of know some of the folks that owned HVAC businesses in my
Mhm.
area. They were family friends. My father actually helped one of his friends start a business. So kind of had like a quick line to talk to them. And they were nice enough to kind of give me the time of day, and learned a lot about the industry that way. So really just kind of became like a student of the industry, talking to as many people as I could,
Mhm.
which was surprisingly hard during the summer because HVAC is is booming at that point, and not many people want to give you the time of day when they're chasing
Yeah,
fires.
super
So
busy.
yeah, super busy. But one of the reasons we landed on HVAC specifically is that as we learned about plumbing and electrical, the licensing and kind of certification process in HVAC, there it existed, but it wasn't as developed as some of the other licensed trades like plumbing or electrical.
Mm.
Um, there was kind of like this national certification that the EPA provided, and the EPA was just really starting to let third parties be certification administrators. So we went in and spent about a year and a half basically earning the EPA's trust and becoming a certified organization, so that we could actually present that
Mm.
certification. So we kind of quickly learned that like HVAC was kind of a newer industry, and that there weren't as many regs and red tape that existed for better or for worse, that allowed us to kind of get into the market quickly, and again learn that kind of the education that someone's receiving on in the Northeast is generally the same as someone on the West Coast. Again, maybe not as focused on heating in some areas, but a lot of the equipment is generally the same.
So then, I think there's some interesting things that you brought up there. So, one, it sounds like your entry into this space is maybe different than other talent marketplaces. When I think about most talent marketplaces, they're going after existing supply, that is, people who are already in the field, experience, and then trying to match them up with opportunities. Since you're talking about certification, it sounds like that you're actually bringing people into the market. Is that right?
Yeah, we made kind of a deliberate decision early on that we didn't want to be optimizing existing supply and really focused on generating new supply. I mean, if you just Google like skilled trades, the first few pages are going to be talking about the skilled trade labor crisis. So it's like,
Mm.
it's kind of everywhere. I think I saw something last week that like there's 50% less plumbers than the US needs. Like there are dramatic, uh, labor issues in the trades. So we really, we're like, hey, we could focus on existing supply of workers that are like dwindling every year, or we could be really focused on generating new supply.
Hmm. Got it. And then how do what has been the reception when talking about the skilled trades to people who could consider this as a career? And I wonder, sort of, I feel like in the States, it has not been a go-to career. And I think it's different in other countries. So there's this like cultural element. I'm just curious what you're seeing and learning.
Yeah, I think 2008 was kind of a bit of a shift for the trades when the 2008 housing crisis. You saw a lot of people kind of leave the construction industry because there was
Mm.
not a lot of new construction, and a lot of that workforce didn't come back. So I think that's kind of one of the reasons that you're seeing a bit of a labor shortage right now. But we and I thought about this, from day one, like, oh, the trades have this perception problem. There's a top of funnel problem. There's not enough people that are interested in these careers, and I've kind of switched a bit of thought there after kind of being in the market. I think there's a lot of people that want to kind of pursue these careers. It's just really hard for them to access those careers.
Mm.
Trade schools are really expensive, they're time consuming. There's this market where you can kind of join as an apprentice, but a lot of times those listings require to have 1 year of experience. So it's like a bit of like a catch 22, right? Do I go to trade school to pursue this career I'm kind of interested in? Do I try my luck as an apprentice? And the businesses are kind of like, hey, hiring someone without any experience is a risky endeavor, so they end up like not hiring a lot of these folks. So we get about 10,000 people to our website each month looking for more information about these careers, and we're still fairly new. There's a lot more
Mhm.
search volume out there, and if you talk to businesses, they'll tell you that they don't generally have a tough time attracting entry level candidates. It's just they are not sure how to decide who the right person to kind of invest in trading is.
Got it. And so then if you take that sort of space of, okay, how do you decide which ones are the right ones? That probably breaks down into different types of skill sets. So how do you help companies solve that problem?
Yeah, yeah. So you're right, and most, this is kind of what we hear the most is like you looking for someone who has mechanical aptitude, who's motivated to learn, and who has good communication skills. And if you were to look at someone's resume who maybe worked at UPS and spent 30 minutes with them, it's really hard to suss out that information. Like, how do I know this person wants to be an HVAC technician? How do I know they have the aptitude to learn? And like employers have kind of invented some proxies for this, like you may take a mechanical aptitude test, but like generally the tools that employers are using to assess an entry level candidate just don't really map well to the skill sets that they're really looking for. So we do a lot of that through our technology platform. So we personally interview every candidate that applies to our program. We put them through what we call kind of our pre-hire training,
Mm.
and that's a great way for us to kind of assess aptitude and motivation. Right? Do they complete this training program that ends in industry certification, or do they decide, hey, this isn't really for me and I don't want to continue with this? It's a way for the student to benefit because they're earning this great credential, but also for us to understand, does this person really want to become a technician, or is this just kind of like an interest that was spiked at one point and is no longer something they're interested in doing?
And so, if you're doing the interviews yourselves, I think about scalability as a challenge. I know in some situations there are actually marketplaces with people who will interview. So in the developer side, I think there's a couple marketplaces where it's like these people will do the interview questions and scale for you. How do you think about scaling up that side of the business? Or do you think it sort of has importance now at the stage you're at and you might sort of transition to a different model?
Yeah, so we've kind of already transitioned. So when I say we personally interview, so we have a pre-recorded kind of on-demand
Mm.
recording process where we ask them three questions, they record themselves answering it, but then we're there as kind of a career coach if they have additional questions. So there's always a
Mhm.
person there that's kind of there to support if they want additional support, but the interviews happen in kind of a scalable way where a student can kind of do it whenever they want. But we're kind of getting the core questions that we'd be asking in that interview anyway.
Got it. So is this an async process when you talk about coaching? Is that like async over text or is it actual?
It's a combination. So yeah, we it could be happen over text, over email. We do allow students to kind of book time with our career coaches. So if they want to talk to someone live, they can do that. But I would
Mhm.
say a lot of it happens over text. Email has not been a great communication channel for a lot of the folks that we work with. Um, Texting seems to be casual and can get a lot of they're quicker to respond and more comfortable texting than sending an email.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely hearing that response rates on text messages with people in the application funnel in jobs in general is much higher than email, which I guess is good. I wonder how long this will last and how long until we need like better spam filtering on text messages to keep it at like,
Yeah.
it's good for now. Which is great. But it also sounds like you are solving a number of different problems. How long have you been working on Faraday now?
Yeah, it's been about a year and a half, I'd say. The
Okay.
first kind of 6 months were really talking to customers, and then really the last year, kind of actually building the product and going to market with what the Faraday technology platform looks like today.
Got it. So I mean, it sounds like actually a pretty fast ramp up as well, like a fast cycle of learning and building.
Yeah, I mean, we've been really focused on kind of leveraging no code tools to build a lot of our
Mm,
stack. So we don't have a product team. We've got myself and a few other folks on the operations side are really focused on kind of customer support and execution. So
mm,
we've been able to stay like pretty nimble. And like our business has changed a lot since we first started. I mean, we really first started as like a school,
mm,
where it was free for students, and then we were kind of like trying to push people out into the marketplace.
mm-hmm,
We thought about ISAs for a second, and then
mm.
we moved into kind of more of like a training platform. But we started to hear from employers that they basically pay for kind of like a vetted candidate, and that's really
Mm.
where we kind of got centered with the current offering.
Mm. What is your sense? Like, did you talk to potential school attendees about the ISAs? Like, I'm just curious what the initial market response was to ISAs.
Yeah, we didn't talk a lot about it. I thought a lot about it, and there's like a lot of new things we're trying to do with Faraday, right? Online education for the trades is like a generally new thing,
Mm-hmm.
and employer involved training is kind of a new thing. Or like, how many things do we really want to like innovate on? And we didn't feel like
Yeah.
the financial side of things was something that like we wanted to tack on to kind of like what we were building. So and I think there's like generally this shift, in my opinion, of the education landscape. It used to kind of be like federally backed, and then it was privatized, and it was up to the individual. I think the general shift is that like employer backed education is what's to come, and that's like a big benefits piece to large corporations. So we were really kind of keen to figure out if we could kind of make employer sponsored education work in the trades.
Mhm.
And for what it's worth, I mean, they've been doing it forever. Apprenticeships or employer
Yeah.
backed education, they pay you to become a licensed technician. There's just not really a technology platform that supports that operation.
I don't remember the name. There's a UK company that's from like Tony Blair's son that I think raised
Yeah,
400 million.
multiverse. Yeah.
Multiverse. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So it's definitely something that's getting more and more attention.
Yeah, they're able to take advantage of the levy in the UK. So they've been able to get to market really quickly in the UK. I'm not. I believe they're in the US as well now. It's
Mm.
one of the kind of challenges in the US is there's some money out there for kind of the grants for apprenticeship programs, and a lot of it's in the technology sector. There's not a ton in the construction sector.
Hmm. It's interesting. When it comes to customer acquisition, you don't have to go DT deal, but I'd just be curious, like, are you finding tradespeople just coming through SEO? Like, what has been a good way?
Yeah, on the kind of, again, we kind of think of ourselves as like a marketplace. So on the candidate or student side, SEO has been a big channel for us. We kind of see ourselves as like an educator and kind of awareness builder up front. A lot of people come to us wondering how much do HVAC technicians make? How do I become an HVAC technician? We're able to put out a resource that helps them understand what that career looks like, and then give them a pathway to basically starting that career debt free if they want. So
Mm.
SEO has been a big channel for us there on the student side of things. On the business side, not so much. It's been a lot of kind of direct sales, and I think we're really focused on kind of enterprise like customers. So like
Hmm.
our average company has, or average employee partner has about 300 employees, the largest being about 3,000. So we're really looking for kind of like these larger HVAC folks who are really
Mm-hmm.
focused on growth. They're multi-location. A lot of them have the capacity to invest in training, and that's really who we've been speaking with. And there's kind of another push toward HVC is like it's the hottest private equity
Mm-hmm.
category for like the past 10 years. So you're seeing a lot of kind of sophisticated buyers coming into the market who understand how to leverage technology to kind of like grow and scale businesses. So that's been a channel for us, is selling into those businesses who understand how technology can kind of change the business operations.
Yeah, that's really insightful. And I think understanding who that ideal target partner is, as you called them, I think is great. One of the things that occurs to me is that there might be existing placement firms that are serving these niches already. One of the go to markets that I've seen work is sort of the acquisition of those placement firms for the customer book. What are you seeing in there in that
Yeah, I
space?
think that's kind of what I'm trying to remember the name of the company. Workrise did. I think they were
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of buying their recruiting
Work,
agencies.
Workwise is one of them. Yep.
Yeah. So for us, again, like I think we're not competing directly with recruiting agencies, right? We're
Mm,
we're really trying to like offload the response, the kind of the entry level piece of the recruiting agency. So a lot of the companies we work with have W-2 recruiters that they pay to work for the business, and like they're focused on sourcing and, basically going after experienced technicians. It doesn't make sense for you to pay someone, $100,000 a year or whatever it is to like source entry level candidates. Like it's really hard for a recruiter to kind of like understand the skill set you're looking for. So we're kind
Hmm.
of like, hey, don't waste your recruiter's time on the entry level candidates. Let us basically do that for you so that your recruiter can focus on recruiting folks that are like able to produce revenue day one when they step on the job site.
Hmm. Got it. I imagine when you talk to investors, there might be like different pushes. Like I could imagine them being like, "Oh, you should totally go into the great trades and you should own it." I could also imagine you should be the Udemy or Degreed of the trades. Like,
Yeah.
what are some of the different back and forths that you get, and then how do you set your north star on what's
Yeah, it's a
really
good
important?
question. I think it's kind of, we're really focused on what the employers are kind of looking for. I mean, the employers are ultimately our customers. And it's like,
Mm,
I think I kind of went into it like, oh, there's a lack of technical education in the trades and there's not enough, quality training content. And I mean there's tons of it, so I think like a Udemy in the space doesn't make a whole lot of sense in my opinion.
mm,
Like manufacturers, basically offer training at a loss to all of their dealer network. The distributors have training. You've got Interplay Learning. I mean there's
mm,
tons of training out there if someone really wants to take advantage of it. So again, I think, more training is not the solution in my opinion. I think there's probably too much training where
mm,
the contractor is just like, I don't know which training to buy or like how to apply it, how do I track to make sure that my team's actually using it. It's one of those things where it's like you buy all this training and then you're like, oh, my team didn't get any better, but it's like they don't even know how to use the training in most circumstances, or like, what's the right way to kind of administer training at one of these businesses. So,
yeah.
I think like there we've definitely had to push into training. We've had to push into like, oh, you should expand your labor marketplace into like experienced technicians. And like our North Star again has been like, how do we increase accessibility for folks who want to get into the trades? And then how do we
Mm,
help businesses basically develop their own workforce? I mean, that's really what we're focused on. So it's probably
okay.
some combination of like recruiting, vetting, and training. I think there's something to be said about bundling that value chain, so it's kind of one service
Like
for.
vertical bundling, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. That doesn't mean we have to like own the training stack, but
Yeah.
basically we're the layer in which employers access training. I think that's how we kind of think about it because a lot of them want to bring their own training. Like
Mm,
they have training managers, they have their own SOPs, so like they want to be administering and building some of their own training. They don't want drop-in replacements like for their entire training stack.
yeah. I guess you should say that. It makes sense to me that there's probably a technical component to training, and then there's also going to be the way the company works that differentiates it. And so that would be unique and different.
Yeah, I think that was something I really struggled with initially talking to customers. You talk to these companies who spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to build these internal training academies, and I remember talking to one of them, and he's like, "You're probably asking me why is every company investing their own resources in building this training academy? It can't make sense." And I'm like, "Yes, that is exactly the question I'm asking. Like, this doesn't make sense to me." And he's like, "I think that the companies are differentiated enough. They have SOPs. They do things substantially differently when it comes to servicing
Mm,
customers that." There's a need for them to kind of build their own training resources.
interesting.
And
So
and that was go ahead.
no, I was just say like you took that complexity. You're like, okay, each one of these is different, and you're going to aggregate in some way and try to solve these problems. Like that must require almost custom workflows for every employer in some sense, or how did you avoid that building out custom workflows?
Yeah, we've been, we don't actually have custom workflows for each employer. We've been able to kind of like productize what our current process looks like. So that's like our technology platform in which employers review candidates, and then once they make a hiring decision, we enroll them in what we call like our pre-hire training
Hmm.
that ends with the EPA 608 certification. So that's like the standard workflow right now. We haven't really branched outside of that for continuous education for the reasons that you're highlighting here, right? You don't want to build like a custom training solution for
Yeah.
every single business you work with. So we're still trying to figure out how we kind of break into that space, but kind of the call it like the job readiness training.
Hmm.
We've been able to kind of basically productize with an industry certification. We're still trying to figure out how we do that. Kind of moving into continuous education.
Interesting. And I guess you have to decide if you want to branch into other industries or like, I mean, I don't know if this is a good one, but beauty technicians are licensed and probably have some set of training. Commercial truck drivers could be another one. You obviously have options on how to expand. It's a big market in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think we're initially focused on HVAC. I'm not sure what vertical we may tackle next, but it's kind of that like wide versus narrow question. Do you
Yeah.
go fully integrate HVAC, or do you go horizontal and start working across a bunch of different occupations? And I think we're still trying to figure out exactly what the next moves look like for that. But I think that there's a lot of opportunity for a platform that's designed for kind of like what I'll call deskless workers.
Mm.
Folks that don't there's basically some hands-on application piece to the training. And if you look at like the most LMSs, like they don't support that. So I think there's some platform there that can kind of like support a wide array of what you might call deskless workers.
Yeah. Essentially, I mean, like when you tie that into, I think like not just mobile, but like text message, like there's just this whole different flow of worker application communication onboarding that just feels very underserved, at least from my perspective on sort of like where I look in the HR tech market. So it's interesting that you're going to tackle it. Switching gears a little bit, what would you say is one of the hardest problems you're trying to solve right now?
Yeah, I think it's trying to show businesses kind of different ways of evaluating candidates. I mean, the what the average kind of um, I don't know what you might call interview process for like an entry level candidate, and we've seen this from like a few of these like internal academies. Is they'll like set up an Eventbrite event, they'll get a bunch of people to show up, they'll offer like pizza, and then they're basically trying to like do like background checks and hiring on the spot.
Mm,
And it's like can be effective, but it's kind of like getting companies comfortable using a technology platform to offset a lot of that has been a challenge. A lot of them are kind of fortunately used to using something like Service Titan, so they understand it.
mm,
But it's the hiring process just feels and for good reason like a very personal thing, and it's hard
mhm.
to detach like we should be like meeting 150 people in person versus we can probably do this first level of screening online and then just spend time with like the 15 most important candidates that we want to bring on as apprentices.
Do you think? Well, actually, so you mentioned using no code tools to build. Did you use any freelancers to prototype, or was it you and no code tools?
It's pretty much me. So I have a bit of a software background.
Mm,
So like I've built kind of applications before, and so we haven't used any freelancers for the no code side. We've used a lot of consultants for kind of the SME side of things. We have folks
mm,
that support us to help us build education programs, but
mm.
I think it's kind of one of the nice parts about where we're at today is like I can spend times with customers and basically go and prototype something that they want relatively quickly.
What are some of your favorite go-to no-code tools?
Yeah, I mean, our business runs on Airtable, Zapier,
Mm,
and Webflow. There's a new tool we've been using called JetAdmin that's pretty similar to like the name's going to escape me now, but it's kind of like it's a way to build internal tools,
huh,
like a retool or something like that. So
yeah.
it connects with Airtable, which is great. So you can kind of build like prototype dashboards using
Mm.
JetAdmin, which is great for the internal team and kind of running admissions processes.
Alex, what do you think about some of the typical differences between skilled trades and office work?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think we tend to kind of think of the skilled trades as like deskless workers, right? People working in construction, skilled trades, manufacturing. I think we kind of it's comfortable kind of limp those folks in together. One of the cool parts about kind of the skilled trades or deskless workforce is that their office may change every day. Your office could be a truck, it could be someone's home, it could be a job site. So you're basically seeing something new every day. You're facing a new challenge every day, which is really exciting for a lot of people who are interested in kind of entering the workforce. Um, there's definitely more physical challenges, right? You're like lifting equipment or carrying tools, so you're working on your feet all day, which is different than kind of the typical office work. But no desk doesn't mean no technology. I mean, most technicians are out in the field with iPads,
Mm,
who are basically diagnosing systems from iPads or iPhones. So I think the main difference is just kind of like it's a mobile workforce, right? Their desk could be, basically any location on a given day. Another piece is that it's really customer facing. I mean, you're in someone's home, you're in a
Mm.
grocery store, you're talking to business owners, so a lot of it is customer facing, which is different than kind of your typical office work.
Yeah, I got to say, my father-in-law works for UPS. He's been a driver there for over 25 years. 65. He is in like just like fantastic shape and energy. And so actually like now as I sort of like get older, I'm like, you know what? That's actually like a really great benefit to be constantly moving around and not just sitting at a desk. That just like helps you stay healthier longer. And so and that's sort of
Yeah,
marketed benefit.
yeah, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. I mean, like in HVAC, at least you're like you could be working in attics that are like 100 plus
Sure, it's
degrees, and
places that are hot, right?
yeah, yeah, and it's like, I mean, it's physically demanding. I know a lot of, the average retirement age for someone in the trades is like, I want to say like in the 50s versus like a 65. I mean, it's a lot of physical labor work. So I
Yeah.
think it can be healthy to some extent, but it definitely takes a toll on the body. So again, a double-edged sword. But I think like there's a lot of knowledge that you can kind of intake while you're in the field. And now there's a lot of opportunities for virtual diagnostics where you have these senior techs who are no longer in the field who can still contribute to the company, by training new folks or by diagnosing system issues without having to really be in the field.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my usual ending questions, I feel like you've answered this in five different ways. And so I'm kind of, we'll see how it goes. But, what's a hypothesis you had when starting that you've either changed your mind on or doubled down on? And it sounds like you've had a pretty iterative learning culture. So,
Yeah, again, I think the biggest one, and it's like what you'll see basically all over the internet if you're looking at like the skilled labor shortage, is that this like top of funnel problem. And again, you reading those articles, you're like, there's not enough people that want to become technicians.
mm,
Um, and it's always kind of like the same prescriptive advice. We need to bring like shop classes back to high school.
hmm,
We need to like engage the younger kids with the trades at an earlier age. And I think I like generally agree with all of those things, but it's like kids don't probably know what accountants do at that age either. Like
yeah.
I think there's like it's hard to kind of like bring every occupation into high school, and I'm not sure if like bringing back shop classes is the answer. um, I think that there's a lot of folks that go and enter the workforce. Maybe they work at like Amazon or UPS. They're kind of doing like these like gig work jobs
Hmm.
to some extent. Some are W-2, and then they're like, hey, you know what, I've got a family, and like I kind of see what my interests are, and I'm like ready to actually pursue a career, rather than like, I'm sure there's some 17-year-olds who are like, I want to be a technician for the rest of my life. But I think a lot of them like think it sounds cool and then they get into it and then they kind of like flake, which is just natural for like 17-year-old kids. So
Yeah.
um, I think my general sense was like, okay, yeah, we need more top of funnel, but I think that there's sufficient top of funnel. We actually surveyed a bunch of our applicants who applied to apprentice programs through Faraday, and we asked them, like why they wanted to pursue a career as an HVAC technician. And the number one reason was they wanted to start a new career, not a job.
Hmm.
They were looking to kind of get away from uh, like a UPS job. But even more surprising, we asked like, what's holding you back? Why, if you're so interested in being a technician, why have you done it yet? And the number one answer was they didn't know where to start. They had no
Mm,
idea if they should go to trade school, if they should join as a helper, if they should join as an apprentice. So I don't think it's like top of funnel. I
mm,
think it's like demystifying how to actually enter this workforce. I think that's the bigger challenge here. I
mm.
think there's enough interest from what I gather.
That's a tough question, but obviously, labor force participation rates have dropped. And in any sense, do you feel like the complexity of figuring out a career and how to start has led to some of that? I mean, there are lots of reasons why labor force participation rates have dropped. I don't want to pin it all on one thing, but I'm just curious if you see people who come back into the labor force because of Faraday in any way.
Yeah, I think it's like half the people we work with are currently employed and the other half aren't. We definitely see a lot of folks who kind of left labor force over the past 2 years and are looking to kind of re-enter. I think a lot of them, may have been working at jobs that they really didn't enjoy that much and maybe spent some time kind of doing some soul searching. I think again, the exciting thing about skilled trades and maybe HVAC specifically is kind of like the amount of technology that's now going into those systems. It's not like wrench turning work. I mean, there's a whole push for electrifying these HVAC systems where there's a lot of virtual diagnostics, IoT
Mm.
tools. So it's like, I hate to use the cliche, but it's like it's not your grandfather's trade. It's like this.
Yeah.
It's like a very technical and software driven business now. I think that's like bringing a lot of people back into it, right? That maybe wouldn't have been interested a few years ago.
And then I guess depending on how you believe in climate change, it seems like there's probably a growing need for HVAC units and the HVAC technicians as well, and that will only
100%.
accelerate.
Yeah, I mean, I think HVAC usage in terms of energy is like the highest in the U.S. And there's a lot of movement now to electrify a lot of those systems, make them more energy efficient. Heat pumps are a big part of that conversation, and a
Mm.
big part of the bill that was just passed as well is subsidizing the cost of installing those new systems. So I think you're going to see a lot of movement for folks and demand for people that can install these like more technical systems.
Okay, awesome. Alex, that was great. I really appreciate it. That was an insightful look into an area that I spend less time looking at, but is obviously extremely important to our economy. So I appreciate your time today, and thanks for walking through everything that you're doing.
Yeah, thanks, EJ. Appreciate you having me.